Today we're going to be taking a tour on the Enchanted Circle. We're starting here in Taos, New Mexico. You may have watched a kind of scenic drive that I did of this previously, but this is going to be a little more detailed, stopping at every dot on the map like we like to do. It's a little touristy. This was one of the more touristy places in New Mexico, but I'm here in mid-December and I've been told this is a great time to come and visit because it's not near as busy. It's a place where people like to go skiing in these areas, and it's just kind of a downtime, I guess, at this time of the year. There's not a lot of snow. Obviously, we're starting here in Taos. I'm in the Kit Carson Park, and Taos is a great town to start in, and it's very historic. I stayed here in a historic hotel and stayed on the plaza, and there's a lot of great old buildings and cool things to see just here in Taos. Taos was initially founded way back in 1615, but it was only intermittently occupied until its formal establishment in 1795. It was formed to act as a fortified plaza and trading outpost for the neighboring communities, including Taos Pueblo, which we'll see later in the video. The English name Taos is derived from the Taos language, meaning place of red willows. Interesting to see the population has gone up ever since incorporation. It was actually a very small town back in the 1930s and 40s, and I can understand why the population is going up over 6,000 today. It's a really beautiful area, very historic, and easily walkable around all the downtown historic areas.
Trouble behind, and you know that no ship, well, it just crossed my mind.
Let's hit the road. We're gonna go counterclockwise, so that's heading east here from Taos, and hopefully find a lot of cool places to check out along the way. Our next incorporated town is Angel Fire. It's a pretty new town. It wasn't established until the 1980s and also incorporated later in that decade. It's here to support the Angel Fire Resort, which was built in the 1960s. So they have kind of created a town around the resort. There are a couple things like churches, and there's an airport here, and it's obviously in a very beautiful part of the Enchanted Circle. Just on the outskirts of Angel Fire and Agua Fria is the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. They have a nice chapel here and then a small museum. It's free and open to the public. Very nice place to get out and stretch your legs as you are taking a drive around the Enchanted Circle. Eagle Nest has had a very colorful history, to say the least. It has had mining and logging and private organizations here. There's people that have built mansions here. 100 years ago, the Eagle Nest Dam was built. It was the largest privately constructed dam in America at the time. Then in the 20s, illegal gambling became popular, and the town became full of saloons and drinking and dancing establishments. And now it's a quieter town here, just a few hundred people, and really, really beautiful and historic area. A little bit of a detour off the Enchanted Circle Byway is the community of Idlewild, and it is certainly an interesting place and one worth checking out. This community was developed because there was a mine called the Klondike Mine over here in this part of New Mexico, and they made a community in the 1930s that was kind of adjacent to the mine. And now when you get back there, it's got homemade signs. Everything is obviously in the forest, and I didn't quite know where to go when I was driving around. And eventually I found a church back here. And obviously this is a proud community. I think these cabins basically have been handed down through generations to different families. And it was certainly a really cool spot way tucked back in the woods, and one that I would recommend taking a little detour and checking out. This sign marks the entrance to Elizabethtown, which is now a ghost town here along the Enchanted Circle. Elizabethtown began in 1866 with mining, and it was New Mexico's first incorporated town. The town was founded by Captain William Moore, commander of Fort Union, New Mexico, and named after his daughter Elizabeth. It was nicknamed E-Town, and the town rapidly grew in the late 1860s during the gold rush. At its height in 1869, they probably had between 5,000 and 9,000 people, making it the most populous place in all of New Mexico at the time. It was named the county seat in 1870, but by 1872, the gold rush was over and the population was down to about 100, and the county seat was moved. What's left is pretty interesting. There are several places to visit. There are some abandoned ruins. There's some older buildings. I'm not sure if some have been refurbished or not, but it's definitely a pretty interesting place to check out. There's also a cemetery here, so if you're just north of Eagle Nest, heading around the Enchanted Circle, you're definitely going to want to stop and check out Elizabethtown. Like Angel Fire, Red River is now a resort town, and there's skiing in this area, but it does have a more significant history. It goes back to the late 1800s, where it grew because of mining and gold strikes in this area, and it boomed up to about 3,000 people. And the peak was said to be around 1897, and by about 8 years later, the population started to go down, but then tourism has brought the economy back in Red River. And as you can see, there are lots of places to see, some historic buildings and modern ones as well. So really nice area if you're driving around and need to stop for food, or if you want to maybe even do some skiing. We take a short little detour to finish up our trip at Taos Pueblo, certainly the most historic place along our drive today. There aren't too many World Heritage sites out there, and this is one of them, and deservedly so. Some of the buildings in Taos Pueblo date back to possibly the year 1000, and so remarkable place to walk around and visit. This is currently the more modern church. They have a older church that's in ruins in the area, but you can walk around and learn about this area and all the history. There are people that actually still live here, and there's little shops. But that's the most kind of famous picture you'll see is of that kind of multi-level structure. They say that the architecture here is the inspiration for a lot of the southwestern architecture that you see nowadays, and this was the original buildings that were built, and it's very remarkable. There's so much history that I can't really summarize it in a short little video here, so I'll put links in the description of this video if you want to learn more about Taos Pueblo. It's a great place to walk around, and you can spend pretty much an entire day checking it out, meeting people, and going into the little shops all around Taos Pueblo. Well, that seems like an appropriate place to end. I don't know how I could top the Taos Pueblo, and it's a spectacular place to come and visit. I would advise doing the trip in a counterclockwise, direction like I did, so that you could end here, and it's incredible, really. I mean, it's one of the special places you can visit, and was able to kind of just walk around and see everything close up. So it's awesome. Obviously no drones allowed in a place like this, so it could give you maybe a perspective with a Google Earth or something like that here. But yeah, it's really awesome. There are a few other communities inside the circle that if you go from here kind of northeast a little bit, but the sun is setting and I don't have time to get to those. Maybe in the credits or the outtakes of the credits will show you one last thing as I'm heading out of town. But I would really highly recommend the Enchanted Circle Scenic Byway. The first part was scenic, but then it wasn't near as scenic as the second half of it, like up where Red River was, and then finishing here. It does live up to the name of the Enchanted Circle Scenic Byway. It's the next day, and about a dozen miles west of Taos is the Rio Grande Gorge Bridge. Pretty spectacular. We're just like a mile from the bridge down there. What an unusual deal. Hey guys. Don't mind me.